Um, fast twitch muscle fibers are anaerobic, which means without oxygen. So that means that it does not use oxygen in its metabolic system. So, and which after about 30 seconds, the muscle fiber starts going into aerobic metabolism. Okay, so 30 seconds and under is fast twitch. Then we have, which are the type 2A. Then there are type 2B, which are the muscle fibers that are like in between type 1A and type 2A. So they're not fast twitch or slow twitch, they're like a mixture of the two. And depending on how you train, you can train them to be more like slow twitch or to be more like fast twitch muscle fibers, depending on how you train. And how we train affects our hormones and a variety of other things. But for the sake of this discussion, I'm not going to get too much into that. I just want to point out that dark meat is a slow twitch muscle fiber. The reason why dark meat is dark is because it's aerobic muscle fiber, which means it utilizes oxygen in its metabolic system. And so there's more iron because oxygen binds to the iron in the hemoglobin. So dark meat is higher in iron than white meat. Dark meat has intramuscular fats, which are extremely important and vital for our health. The fats that are in animals, healthy animals, is extremely good for us. Extremely good for us. And you know, whether we're eating animals or plants, where the conditions in which that animal was grown and the conditions in which that plant was grown has everything to do with the nutritional value. Just because something's an apple or a lettuce or because it's salad doesn't automatically make it good for you. Depends on where that lettuce came from. You know, how old was that lettuce? What was the condition of the soil that lettuce was grown in? The same thing is true for eggs and milk and everything else, okay? But just to say that dark meat is just bad off the bat because it's dark meat, everybody automatically thinks that. That's totally incorrect. If you look around the world and you go around the world, people eat dark meat. You know, you go in the United States, if you go into a Chinese restaurant or Ethiopian restaurant, they'll serve white meat chicken. But if you go to those countries, or you go to the Ethiopian Chinese restaurant in their neighborhoods where Ethiopians or Chinese go, it's dark meat. Okay? And organs. A lot of indigenous people around the world ate organ meats. Excuse me, I'm in New York City, so you might hear like cars honking and stuff every now and then. But the organ meats are highly nutritious. The heart, the liver, the ovaries, you know, the brain. Although I know this, I don't eat these things because I wasn't raised eating it, so it kind of like, you know, I don't like the taste of it. But I do know that most of the nutrition is stored in the organs. And all throughout Chinese medicine and various forms of medicine, indigenous medicine, organs and glands were used for optimal health and function. Oftentimes in many parts of the world, if someone, you know, if a man wanted to increase his testosterone or he wanted to go on a pre-fertility diet, he would consume the testicles of another male animal. Like I know in Jamaica there's cowbell soup or something, but also the Chinese is the same thing. And women would consume the eggs and ovaries of certain female animals when they wanted to become more fertile, or something was wrong with their reproductive organs. Something was wrong with someone's kidney, they would eat the kidney of a healthy animal. So there is a lot of nutrition that's stored in the organs. Like for example, vitamin A, there are stories of Native Americans finding Europeans in the woods going blind, and they fed them deer eyeballs. And if you think about it, you know, vitamin A is, beta-carotene is not vitamin A like people like to think. Beta-carotene is a precursor of vitamin A. The body has to expend a lot of energy to make into vitamin A, which is not, you know, it's a very costly process. But the actual chemical vitamin A is retinol, which sounds like retina, right? So we store vitamin A in our eyes. That's why it's important to get sunlight in our eyes and on our skin. We need to get sunlight on our skin so that we can absorb vitamin D, okay? When you use sunscreen, it blocks our ability to absorb the UV rays. And the UV rays must hit the ergosterol on our skin to then produce vitamin D, okay? And the darker one's skin, the more sunlight they need to get vitamin D. So if someone, you know, says, oh, I can't go outside without sunscreen because I'll burn, well, everybody has their time limit, you know? You don't want to stay in the sun past what you're supposed to be staying in the sun past that amount of time, because the sunlight also destroys our folate. A folate is a B vitamin that is responsible for cellular division, the division of our DNA. So it can cause mutated cells. And that's why when somebody gets sunburned, they've already caused genetic damage to themselves. So you want to be very careful of that. So if someone's from Ireland and they go to Jamaica, they can't be in the sun for a very long period of time. And to put sunscreen on to try to extend that time can only cause problems, because number one, all of the chemicals that are in sunscreen are highly cancer-causing. They're highly carcinogenic. You can take any bottle of sunscreen and just Google the ingredients and look up and see what you find about, you know, the kinds of issues they cause. If something can't be on your skin, if you can't eat something, it shouldn't be on your skin. Things get into our bloodstream much easier from our, you know, going through our skin than going through our digestive system. So that's very important, number one. Number two, we need the UV rays in order to make vitamin D. So if you block the UV rays, you block our body's ability to produce vitamin D, okay? So, but whether you're light skin or dark skin, people should not be in the sun in between 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. That's when the sun is the harshest. So even if it doesn't burn you, it can cause your blood to be very acidic. So it's not really that good of an idea, okay? So the morning sun and the evening sun is what is much better, okay? But we need sun in our skin and we need it in our eyes to produce vitamin D and vitamin A, both of which are fat-soluble vitamins, okay? And we need fat in order to absorb fat-soluble vitamins. So if we're not consuming enough fat, that can cause a problem. Now, animal fats are demonized. Like, you know, people will eat egg whites when most of the nutrition is actually in the egg yolk. Egg yolks, specifically eggs that come from chickens that were running around in the sun, eating worms, eating what they eat in a natural diet, not grain-fed chickens. Those chickens are very high in omega-3 fats and medium chain triglycerides. Very good source of protein. The protein in egg yolks is one of the most bioavailable, which means that the human system absorbs the protein from egg yolk very efficiently. Also, it has lots of B vitamins and very good source of iron. So eggs are like one of the most nutritious foods. The Japanese call it a brain food. It's a very nutritious food. And so when so eggs and also raw dairy, which is another thing that gets a bad rap, is dairy. Yes, some people can't digest dairy. Like some people can't digest strawberries. Some people can't eat avocados. Just because you can't eat avocados doesn't mean that nobody should eat avocados. It doesn't mean it's bad for everyone. When I look at nutrition, I look at, you know, what have people eaten for thousands of years, you know, what has proven to work for thousands of years, where, you know, the population was healthy, well over 100, and they were strong and physically active. Like, what did they eat? And who are the longest living, healthiest people currently on the planet? What did they eat, you know? And dairy, you know, by people who lived in the desert in Africa and Asia, they thrived off of raw dairy, raw camel's milk. You know, if you think about it, there isn't much vegetation in the desert. Also, different parts of Europe, like in Switzerland, I believe, but different parts of Europe, where they also consumed lots of raw milk, and they're very strong and strong bones and tall. Raw dairy, not homogenized, pasteurized, commercial milk. That's horrible for everybody. I'm talking about raw, unhomogenized, pasteurized milk that comes from a grass-fed cow, from a sheep, from a goat. It's a highly nutritious food. That's why any bodybuilding protein that people find, any protein supplement that's to build muscles, always has whey protein. Whey protein naturally occurs in milk. I believe in getting things from the food. Okay, whey protein and casein protein. Whey protein is one of the best for muscle recovery and muscle building. And so we can get that naturally from whey protein, from raw milk, from yogurts. Some people, you know, in my practice, I've seen people who can't digest commercial milk, but when they try raw milk or goat's milk, they can. But if you can't digest any of that, that's fine. But milk is not just this horrible food across the board. I really suggest that anybody do their own research on raw milk. Okay. So we have that issue, and so for me, looking at, you know, okay, so with the muscle fibers, so twitch and fast twitch muscle fibers, they don't use oxygen, they use phosphates from like ATP phosphate groups. So that's the reason why power athletes use creatine. Creatine is creatine phosphate. So anyone who's doing anaerobic fast twitch muscle fibers, they take creatine, they get the phosphates that fuel the anaerobic metabolism. However, creatine naturally occurs in animal flesh. So that right there is one way of seeing that animal foods help to make you more powerful, you know, help to make your muscles contract more powerfully, and they contribute to strength.